Hello everybody, Kaiwaza with you. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to episode 22 of season 2 of The Cheap Lounge. We're getting close to the end of season 2. Won't leave you with the cliffhanger though. Well, this is the show, if you don't know, where I invite you to come on in the Cheap Lounge, get a happy hour drink, plop yourself down here at the table with me, and we're going to discuss cheap lounge records that I have uploaded onto my online radio station called Moody Mood Music, which is on Live 365. That's linked below. You can check that out anytime. I don't make any money off of that. In fact, I pay a little bit to have that radio station and manage it and present this music. So if you feel so motivated, you can also buy me a coffee, which is linked below. It's a site where you can make like small donations to things, like to me, for buying me a cup of coffee if you feel like it. And I have a part-time barista, so I'm all about the tipping world, let me tell you. But yeah, no pressure or anything. That's just if you feel like it. Anyway, we're going to talk about the records that I have salvaged from thrift stores and dollar record bins and uploaded onto Moody Mood Music recently. Let's get started. Have a little chat. First up, I've actually got 2 records that are by people singing that I wouldn't really consider singers, really. First one, I was surprised to see this in a dollar record bin. I didn't really even knew this record existed. The only record I know from Connie Stevens is when she did the Hawaiian Eye show, and they put out an album and she sang a few songs on that. But turns out she actually did about 10 studio albums. Connie Stevens, I mean, she's an actress. That's what I think most of us, that's what I thought of her as. I didn't really ever think of her necessarily as a singer. Apparently she did have a couple of chart hits. Yeah, a couple. And that's sort of it, but she did record like 9 albums. No singles were issued from this record, so there were no hits on this album. It comes from 1962. Connie Stevens, From Me to You, with the magnificent Werner Mueller Orchestra. Werner Mueller was out of Germany, and that is where this record was recorded. I don't know much about the history of it. Apparently, she had a lot to do with the songs that are on this album, because it's a really weird assortment of songs. I think really weird. For example, you tell me which of these you've heard of. Our very own Wild is the Wind, which is her favorite. She wrote the liner notes on here. Favorite track and her favorite singing ever. The Long Hot Summer, I do know that song. Have You Got Any Castles, Baby? My Own True Love. Dancing in the Dark, I know that. Return to Paradise, I definitely know that. That's right up the Hawaiian alley. Girlfriend of the Whirling Dervish. I've heard Martin Denny's version. I don't really know it otherwise. Because You're Mine. Wonderful Copenhagen. No clue. I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm. Well, I think we know most of that. Most of us know that from the Christmas season, although it's not a Christmas song. Doesn't mention Christmas at all. Could be any time. And Hoagy Baba. Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen, salty old queen of the sea. Once I sailed away, but I'm home today, singing Copenhagen, wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen for
So,
me.
yeah, I still don't really think of Connie Stevens as a singer that much. To me, I kind of throw her in the Joni James category. I don't know if you're familiar with Joni James, but I think her voice, and Joni James, who was actually a very popular singer, are kind of thin. Yeah, I don't think they're great singing voices. She was super cute, very popular, great actress, and had a few hits, whatever. I enjoyed this album. I love it. I do love the arrangements. I like the orchestra, Werner Mueller. I love his Hawaiian album. So yeah, it was cute. I mean, but just I don't really think of her as a singer. The other one is a male artist. I knew the name. I assumed when I looked at the record and picked up the record at $1 band that it was probably him conducting an orchestra, but it's not. It's him actually singing these songs. This record is called The Stardust Road, and this is by Hoagy Carmichael. That's a name I knew as an actor and a composer. He is the composer of the wildly famous American standard Stardust. He wrote that song. He actually wrote a lot of songs in the 1930s as a Tin Pan Alley songwriter, when they were just like churning out songs like crazy. Even Hawaiian songs. A lot of Hawaiian songs were written in Tin Pan Alley in the 1930s, believe it or not, by people who had not been to Hawaii at all. But this one, here he is right here, Hoagy Carmichael. Now this record, Stardust, has Stardust, and then it has 11 other songs. There's 12 songs on it. So again, I feel like the first several songs on here, the singing was kind of weak to me. I mean, I was just listening to it and being like,
oh, but that was long ago.
Yeah, he's a great composer. Like, and an actor, you know, is he really a singer? I wouldn't say so, but I don't know. These are all him singing. And this album actually came out in 1957. However, most of the original recordings here came from 1947. That was released in those 10-inch 78 shellac set of 8 songs. The same 8 songs were also released in 1949 as a 10-inch LP. And then in 1957, they added like 4 more tracks. I don't know where they were from. I was looking it up and trying to figure it out, but I didn't see where they came from. But they added 4 more tracks to it to make 12 songs, and they put this album out. But most of the music originally was recorded in 1947 on this album.
You have such a charming manner, sweet and shy, little old bonnet set in place, and a smile on your face. You're a perfect picture.
Now, you know, I'm kind of weird this way, but of course these are old songs, and as happens, you know, with time, things change, and what it's okay to talk about and sing about change, and we're in a, you know, very politically correct era. Now, there are quite a few songs on here that would never get recorded or played today because of some of the language they use or the references they make. I mean, for example, there's a song called Doctor, Lawyer, Indian Chief. There's several other ones that just make Hong Kong Blues is another one that make, you know, now maybe they would be called racist or racial or whatever, and some kind of very sexist things. There's Huggin' and Chalkin', which is talking about having a really large girlfriend. They don't say it that way, though. So, you know me. So, of course, I put all those songs in rotation on Moody Mood Music. I'm like, let's do it. Just put it out there. I mean, it's my station. I can program what I want. I think it's funny. It's historical, whatever. But yeah, it was amusing. I thought, ooh, this song, you would not play this song now if you had like an easy listening middle of the road station or whatever. Of course, nobody who does anymore except me. But yeah, of course I had to put all those songs out there. Here's one. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this record because I can't really find any information on the artist. But it's a beautiful cover from Audio Fidelity, and it's a nice record. I think it's very pretty, this cover. The Sound of the Magnificent Mandolins by Dick Dia and his Mandolin Orchestra. So yeah, it's a bunch of mandolins playing Italian songs. I think they're all Italian songs. Yeah, all Italian songs. They list who the artists playing all the mandolins are. Al Caiola is among them. Dominic Cortesi, Phil Bodner on reeds. There's some pretty well-known names on here, but not much about Dick Dia. Can't find much of information about him, except what's on here on the back a little bit, where it says he performed in top nightclubs, hotels, theaters, on radio and television, with Perry Como, Jackie Gleason, the Ames brothers, Johnny Desmond, and other top entertainers. He's had standing room only stints at outstanding establishments like Cafe Society, Roma di Notte, Le Directoire, and the Carnival. I know none of those. I don't know, but we're talking about the 1950s here, 1960s, so I don't know those places. But yeah, I enjoyed the album. I don't know, the mandolin to me, I sort of consider it like the Italian ukulele. Here in Hawaii, we have the ukulele. Mandolins, not exactly the same thing. They do actually sound kind of similar. Also sort of similar to the Greek, what are they called? Greek and Russian, balalaika. They have a similar, they're not identical, but they're kind of in the same family. And in fact, a lot of Hawaiian ukulele artists, when they record albums in the past, they still do it now too, will often play on their albums an Italian song, a Russian song, or a song from the Balkans, Greek or Balkan song, because you can sort of imitate that sound on an ukulele, and they sound kind of similar. But definitely a nice record.
Hello, friends. I'm Boots Randolph, and I love to play the saxophone. And you can hear me playing my saxophone on a lot of my old records on the online radio station that plays records from long ago, Moody Mood Music, on live365.com. You can hear not just me playing my saxophone, but you can hear people playing the flute. You can hear people playing a piano, not an electronic keyboard. Well, there are some people playing electronic keyboards, the Moog synthesizer. You can hear people playing the violin. You can hear a whole bunch of people playing a whole bunch of violins. And you can hear singers. Singers who actually had to know how to sing a song because they didn't have auto-tune back then, if you can believe that. I think you'd really enjoy it if you gave it a chance. And Mr. Kaiwaza has given us artists from the past another chance to be heard on Moody Mood Music on live365.com. All you have to do is click that link in the description box below. It couldn't be no easier than that. Click on that link. It's going to take you right there, and you can enjoy wonderful music played by wonderful artists. I hope to see y'all there.
Now this one is weird. Yeah. We have talked about this artist before, but I really wanted to put this particular record on Cheap Lounge to talk about. It's Jackie Gleason. This is Jackie Gleason presents Champagne, Candlelight, and Kisses. Now, it looks like every other Jackie Gleason album, if you're familiar with them, because Jackie Gleason, yes, he was a comedian. Every time to not a music person, but just a normal person, when I talk about Jackie Gleason music, they always are even the people that were you know, older that were around when like the Honeymooners was on and whatever, they're always like, Jackie Gleason did music? Like, they have no idea. I'm like, yeah, he did probably like 40 albums or something, really a lot. What exactly he had to do with them is still questionable and still arguable. I've read things so many different ways, this side, that side, eyewitnesses reporting different things. Some people say he basically just wrote the paychecks for those albums. Some people say, oh no, he actually conducted the orchestra sometimes. Other people say he kind of came into the studio and hung out and had some cocktails and sat in the production room, while other people, you know, did conducting, whatever. So, you know, you tell me, I don't know. A lot of different ideas out there. Anyway, Jackie Gleason did a ton of albums. The one thing they all have in common is that they are so mellow, unbelievably mellow, that his whole shtick was like romance music. This was music to romance your date by and sit by the fireside and you know, I mean, make out. Another generation would have called it make-out music, although their make-out music was different than Jackie Gleason's. But Jackie Gleason's is like non-rock and roll people, 1950s, 60s make-out music. Romantic music, you know, like this here, like what's on my back. However, the reason I have this record on to talk about it, which came out in 1962, is this is really false advertising, because this record is not like the other Jackie Gleason records. Half of the songs on here are, half of the songs are super mellow, real typical Jackie Gleason, put you to sleep, kind of nice, but for a lot of people, even people that like easy listening, will often say Jackie Gleason is too mellow, like they can't deal with it. It's super mellow. So like half the songs are the super mellow Jackie Gleason, and the other half, it says, oh, a top flight group of jazz instrumentalists add variety and excitement to the album. Sometimes they function as a Dixieland combo with the large double string orchestra. Yeah. Like you're listening to this super mellow thing, and then the next song comes on and it's like with the orchestra, and you're going, what the heck? This would completely destroy any romantic mood you had going on if like every second or third song was some Dixieland, and it is basically Dixieland with an orchestra behind it. I don't get it. I don't conceptually get this album. I don't understand why he did this record. I don't know what the reception of this record was, but I'm not a fan of it, but I wanted to put it. I mean, the mellow stuff is fine. I'm not super a fan of Dixieland anyway, and the mellow stuff is fine, but that Dixieland stuff with the orchestra, to me, it just would destroy any romantic mood that you were trying to set. And the cover, the pictures just don't. They really mislead you on what's on this album. So I don't know what the story is here, why that happened, or you know, what the reception was, but yeah, we have some selections playing on Moody Mood Music, but it ain't the Dixieland songs, friends. No, it's not. It's the mellow stuff. Okay. Here's an interesting story on this next record. Very interesting. So, okay, this is the record. It is a budget label, Brand X, whatever you want to call it, called Guest Star. Label, The Port of Love, Julius La Rosa, and selections by the Metropolitan Strings. In typical budget label fashion, if you just casually looked at the record, you would think, oh, it's Julius La Rosa, you know, with an orchestra, right? And, you know, whatever, with the orchestra. Well, no, it's Julius. Some of the selections are by Julius La Rosa, and then the rest of the selections are instrumentals by some made-up orchestra called the Metropolitan Strings. Who the heck knows who they actually were? But anyway,
Protect me.
where do I start with this one? I posted this up on a Facebook page called Brand X Records. You might want to check out, which is a page where they just talk about budget label recordings like this one. Very interesting if you're into that kind of stuff. I love budget labels. Brand X, drugstore records, whatever names you want to call them. Love them. So I was surprised when I played this one, and the quality of the production was actually quite good, because that's usually a trademark of some of the budget label easy listening records in particular. They kind of tend to be sort of garage recordings or early recordings of people who became famous later, so that their name would draw you, but it would actually be sort of inferior quality of production, and maybe songs that aren't really that great, that never really went anywhere, but they slap it on there and people go, ooh, Julius La Rosa, who was very popular there for a while. But the quality of the Julius La Rosa tracks here are very good. So I was a little surprised by that. It turns out there is a story. There's quite a story behind this record. But as far as the Julius La Rosa tracks being good, it's because they were actually recorded by a major label, a major sort of normal record label called, what are they called? Roulette. And then Roulette ended up having some legal problems we won't get into, but they kind of had to close up shop, and they sold a lot of recordings they had by some other artists to these budget label recordings. In this case, Guest Star Records, which is a product of Synthetic Plastics Company in Newark, New Jersey. So that's a Diplomat, Peter Pan label, several labels that are under that umbrella there in Synthetic Plastics. Who else? Is it Spinorama, Premiere? I don't know. Several. Anyway, yeah. So as a result, these are actually very decent tracks by Julius La Rosa. Quite nice. And the instrumental ones are nice. They're just kind of generic, easy listening string orchestra songs.
Let nature take its course. There's no use in your fighting it. Ooh, with each kiss you're inviting it. Better let nature have her way.
Julius La Rosa, though, I didn't really know anything about. Quite interestingly, it turns out there's a story with him. He was, for quite a while, on the Arthur Godfrey show. Arthur Godfrey, that's this guy right here. He might even be on this. Yeah, in fact, there he is on the Julius La Rosa. Had a very popular, massively popular variety television show and radio program all across the country, and had many people working, under him, different musical groups, whatnot. So Julius La Rosa was one of those. And Arthur Godfrey had a policy that he didn't want any of the artists working for him to have agents or to have representation. That he was the boss, and he was just going to negotiate with them and control. He didn't like them doing any recording outside of his permission, whatever. Like he wanted to exercise the control over them. Julius La Rosa did some recording outside of Arthur Godfrey's knowledge. I guess he, of course, got wind of it and was upset about it. Julius La Rosa went out and got himself an agent. He got representation, which upset Arthur Godfrey so much that Arthur Godfrey had him on his radio program, Julius La Rosa, sitting there waiting to go on, and he ended up performing last. He called Julius La Rosa up on stage to sing a song, and started talking about, how, Julius La Rosa, the wonderful voice. Today is his swan song. This will be his last performance with us because he lacks humility. And he actually said that. He actually said it on the air. Like, he lacks humility, so he'll be, gone after this is his swan song. So Julius La Rosa sings a song, and he's thinking, like, what's going on? Well, yeah, he fired him on the air because he got representation and got a lawyer. an agent rather, and you know, he left the show. Interestingly, though, Arthur Godfrey himself was known to be a person who was not humble at all, and was kind of a control freak or whatever with all these artists. So his firing of Julius Rosa on the air actually really backfired on him. And the popularity, there was a real public reaction, and the popularity of Arthur Godfrey started going down and never came back up. Meanwhile, Julius Rosa went out on his own and boom, had more hits and had a nice career and whatever. But Arthur Godfrey really was the one that suffered over his on-air firing of Julius Rosa. Interesting story. It's actually on YouTube. You can look it up and hear him firing him on the air. It's kind of amazing, but interesting story of Julius Rosa. So, yeah. Final record today. I'm just going to go over this really quickly. You know, not a lot to say about it musically. It's just interesting. The cascading voices of the Hugo and Luigi chorus, they ended up doing several records of cascading voices, 3 or 4. This one came out in 1963. This was the first one. My question in my mind when I started listening and hearing this, it's a method where they sort of layer, that's why they have the waterfalls here or whatever. They layer like voices over each other and go la 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 la, and they're layered over each other, so it sort of sounds like a cascading, you know, waterfall. It gives that effect. And I wondered when I was hearing that, like, oh, they had to have gotten this idea from Mantovani, who's this guy here, because Mantovani was doing that with strings. He had a very famous song called Charmaine in 1958 that specifically used what they called the cascading strings. Trying to stick a little bit of it under here, but you get the idea of what it is. A very unique sound. Mantovani kind of became known for doing that and did that on many albums, and other instrumental orchestras kind of imitated that sound a little bit too. But they don't say, but it must have been the inspiration for the idea of the cascading voices. I mean, I don't know what else would be, because it's a similar thing. Thing about this is they show the sleeve on here, the original sleeve here talks all about Dynagroove, because Dynagroove was a new thing. I tell you, I've read it, you can read it, it ain't gonna make no sense when you finish it, because you just go like, what? I don't know. Like, I can't tell the difference in the sound between any other record. Maybe if you had some amazing stereo system back in the day, and you know, you could really tell, ooh, Dynagroove's so much better than the other stuff, but I don't really hear it on mine. And also interesting is the paper sleeve, because there's nothing on the back except a statement. So on the back of this inner sleeve are the liner notes for the Hugo and Luigi chorus. I just thought that was kind of weird. And they just describe the songs. Usually that stuff's put on the back cover, because most often this and this get separated over time. Yeah, just interesting cascading voices. I wonder if out there somewhere there's other cascading things. I mean, I haven't come across them, but I wonder if people did like cascading brass, cascading, you know, accordions. I don't know. Cascading flutes, you could do that. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. Please give the video a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe, and leave any comments below. Any of these records you have had, or artists, or interesting ideas or thoughts about them, please share them in the comments below. And tune into Moody Mood Music if you feel like it. That's going to be linked in the description too. So have a good time. Have a good week. Have a good time, whatever you're doing. I don't know. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.